So this tip is going to be about choosing the correct reverb for the job. And we're going to have a look at some of the different reverb types we can use. Now, the first one is plate. So I'm not going to go into what a plate reverb is because it's a bit beyond the scope of this video series, but it's kind of a mechanical reverb from maybe the 60s, I think it was invented. So plates are going to have quite a resonant sound, and they're going to be very kind of consistent sounding, resonant and consistent. And I'll show you what I mean. So I've just got the snare soloed here, and I've got a Valhalla vintage verb. You can just replace this with whatever reverb you want, but this has got loads of different reverb algorithms here, so it's quite a useful one to be able to try things out. So listen to the plate here. So I've got it on quite an exaggerated setting. Let's go to now, just so we got the latest kind of sound. And you can hear how kind of linear that is. It's very clean, very consistent. So plates are good for whenever you want something which is very clean and consistent. They're great for snares, and they're great if you can find one which is kind of complementary to the sound, because obviously they're quite resonant. So if you get a resonant which kind of suits the sound that you're working with, they can be great. They're very bright, unless you EQ them, and they don't really have a huge amount of kind of shape to them, a huge amount of character to the decay. So they can be a little bit kind of lifeless sounding, for want of a better word. So they don't have much kind of movement to them. Let me show you what I mean. So we compare this to, say, let's go concert hall. So there's much more kind of movement in there. Not as much movement with the plate. So it's great for vocals, for snares, claps, things like that. Anytime you want to brighten something, plates can be really good. But if you're looking for something with a bit more character to it, then you might want to go for something like a hall or a church or a room. So for example, with this plate, if we wanted to brighten up this snare a little bit, let's bring it in and out. Let's take the high cut off. It's kind of giving it more high frequency energy. You can hear with that plate. Okay, so while we've got the snare here, another one which is good for drums would be a room. So this is if you want to set kind of more of a shape to the sound and you have an acoustic space in mind, I suppose. So it's a little bit more real sounding than a plate, which is obviously a mechanical reverb. So not as bright as the plate, you can hear. A bit more rounded, a bit warmer, a bit more character. Okay, similarly, we have a chamber. Now, a chamber is anything we want to sound like it was recorded in a live space, essentially. So it's somewhere between like a hall and a room. So it's very similar to the room compared to plate. So much more warming than the plate. Now there's no church algorithms within vintage verb, so let's grab the space designer from Logic. Okay, and let's grab large space, halls. Let's see if they've got a church in here. Okay, so chapel. Let's try some of that.
Good intentions and a humble heart to go. Don't be going down the rabbit hole, singing what do we all believe in? What do you?
So quite a lot of character to the sound with the church, very kind of ethereal, it's a church. So that kind of spiritual aspect, So this is something which obviously if you had a ballad where there was hardly anything playing in the track, maybe just piano and vocals, you might be able to get away with having this kind of reverb and it will sound great. But generally for faster paced movement, it's going to probably be just too big. Obviously you can adapt the decay time, etc., but it's going to give you that kind of church style sound. Now, similar kind of algorithms are going to be halls and clubs. Clubs are kind of, like a big room, essentially. But a special mention should go to spring reverbs. I think these probably predate the plate reverbs. So this is, what you get inside like old guitar amps, and it's to do with a spring essentially. Yeah, anytime you want to think something to sound kind of vintage or like kind of dubby sounding can be quite good. Let's actually put it on the guitars. So let's drag this across to the guitar here, because it can be quite a good algorithm to use on guitars. Let's try some more space. There we go. So it's got that very kind of... Yeah, very kind of lo-fi effect. Let's try it in the mix. I actually feel like I quite like it on this. I've probably got something playing on the snare there. What have we got on the snare? I think we've still got the vintage verb playing on the snare. Let's bring the plate back in we had before. So pretty cool. It's probably not, something you'd associate with this style of music, but that doesn't mean to say you can't use it. So spring reverbs are anytime you want something to sound kind of lo-fi, vintage, that kind of thing. That can be a really nice effect. Okay, so let's get to the lead vocal now. And let's take off that effect there. The final one I want to look at is like non-linear reverbs. That means they don't follow a linear path to the decay. And this would be things like gated reverbs. So let's grab Vintage Verb again and see what they've got for gated reverbs. Big ambience gate. Let's try that. So you can hear that there's actually a big reverb on there, but it doesn't have like that long decay to it because it's getting gated. It's basically like if we just choose another reverb, let's choose a preset. Let's choose let's do a long synth hall. Let's actually do this on a send. That'll be easier because then we can process it. So we'll just copy this across. And then if we just bypass the reverb that's already on there, let's grab something like, I quite like the Neutron 5 gate because it gives you a nice visual on what you're doing.
Something to believe, a different kind of energy. Thank you for the frequency. You get me in the zone.
So you can hear the reverb's cutting out.
You give me something to believe.
When it falls below the gate.
A different kind of energy. Thank you for the frequency. You get me in the zone.
Take it off.
Give me something to believe.
Can you hear all that tail?
A different. Give me something to believe. A different.
There you go. That's kind of the gated kind of reverb sound. It really originates, I think, from Phil Collins' track, Something in the Air, I think it's called, where apparently they left the reverb on with a gate. It was basically an accident, and the reverb was playing and it was getting gated. Yeah, someone routed something in the wrong place or something. But, like great artist, Phil Collins listened to it and went, that's cool, that's a fresh new sound. And then that launched, there's a big part of the sound of the 80s, essentially, was that technique. So, much like the Beatles, these kind of happy accidents, just being aware and noticing them. So that's the gated reverb. So yeah, in this video, the tip is experiment with different reverb types. I mean, it's difficult to cover this in one video because, it's a world of learning, but I've given you like a whistle-stop tour of the different reverb types you can choose from. Plates are great, as I said, for vocals, snares, anything you want to be like really consistent and resonant, sounding, very smooth and great for adding high frequencies. And then more character is like kind of like your real spaces. Spring reverb in and of itself is that vintage kind of sound. So it's just worth experimenting and try and think what's going to complement the sound. So if you have a very bright, shrill, let's say annoying vocal sound, then maybe having a warming, characterful reverb might be a better fit than having a plate, which is quite resonant and smooth. which might accentuate any annoying frequencies you have in the vocals. So just think about it in those terms as well. Okay, so that is choose the correct reverb for the job. Let's head into another tip. So I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.